Hello everyone, my dear students, learners. GUI apps with Python. Introduction to GUI apps. It's very comprehensive topic, of course. I don't mean to cover everything. I just wanted to give you a push, a head start. So in this course, I just explained the most basic visual elements you can use for programming. So we cover labels, we cover frames, we cover check buttons, radio buttons, lists, scroll bars, and finally entry field. Super important widget because eventually, yes, all those widgets we explain, they nice, they good, they useful, but eventually your user supposed to type, and when he types, you don't really have a lot of control. He can type anything. So there are some challenges when you program entry field. So entry field widget is today lesson. Also, we are going to try a new layout manager. If you remember, we used to do very simple method. It's called pack, when you basically align widgets in one row or in one column. But also you can basically divide your form into logical rows and columns. We call it grid. And you can position your widgets more precisely. So instead of method pack, I can apply to any widget method grid. And of course, you need now two parameters, row number, column number. We start from 0. We start numbering rows and columns from 0. And obviously, we're not supposed to mix two completely different layout concepts. If you start using pack, then stick to it. If you start using grid, stick to it. Do not switch back and forth. The results can be unpredictable. So what you see is a new color mixer up, and now I divided my screen into 4 rows and 2 columns. So for example, the label going to 00 cell, but sometimes what you can do, if you want to center widget across many columns, you can do span parameter, similar, by the way, similar to HTML, if you ever tried websites. So in my case, I position label, color mixer label into cell 00, but I do the span. So it's going to span 2 columns. Label red going to row 1, 0. Entry field, you see new guy, new widget. So it's going to row 1, column 1. Green label, row 2, column 0. Entry field for green color is row 3, column 1. Blue, this is row 2. So red is row 1, green is row 2, blue is row 3, sorry. So blue label going to row 3, column 0, and finally this entry field for the blue color going to row 3, column 1. So pretty much easy layout. When you program entry fields, there are a few challenges. First challenge is, yes, you may have to validate because nothing prevents user from typing wrong characters. Of course, I expect in each field a number from 0 to 255. So user can type anything, he may not type anything, and then I have to validate. I have to print a message, and you see what happens if the input not valid. I see error message into the entry field. Only if the numbers are good, I can see a new color. You see now, after I typed 100, 100, and 255, the color was updated. So that's the first challenge. The first challenge when you program entry fields, you may have to do some validation. And second challenge is what kind of event you have to attach to your widget. Or in other words, when I have to accept the input and when I have to recalculate the color. So there is an event, it's called FocusOut. So whenever your widget loses the focus, it may happen if I click, for example, somewhere else, then my previous widget going to get this event, FocusOut. So whenever it happens, whenever user switched from my widget, I consider it as a done message, so I can do re-evaluation of the color. So FocusOut is a good event. I can react, and also I may react on enter key. So if my user press enter key, I attach event handler, I recalculate, and I move, by the way, the focus to the next widget. Now, if you remember, there are two different event handling techniques. One is simple, when you provide command parameter, when you instantiate the widget, but it's kind of limited approach. Some widgets do not have command parameter in a constructor, so there is more, let's say, universal technique. You apply method bind to connect event handler. In a bind method, there are two parameters, the name of the event and the name of the event handler. So that's what we are going to use here in this application. Now let's take a look how to build or instantiate entry field. So pretty much straightforward. If you instantiate entry field, you need a master and you need associated variable. So whatever your user types, automatically going to be reflected in your text variable, and it's convenient. It's convenient to have for an entry field such a variable. We are going to attach for all three entry fields those associated variables, and that's it. Basically, the constructor is pretty much simple. Now, talking about the form class, my instance variables are mixer. You see the prefix LBL. You see a message for the red color. You see associated variables. So here we are going to get anytime a text user type in the red entry field. That's the actual entry field for the red color, and the same for the green, and the same for the blue. So that's the class. That's the instance variables or fields. Sometimes we call them attributes. And now event handlers. Obviously, in a form, I'm going to have a constructor init, but as I told you, I'm going to react on return event and I'm going to react on focus event. And by the way, when you press return key, the focus is not automatically moved to the next widget. You have to do it yourself as a programmer. So I'm going to basically create a method on change to update the color. So both event handlers going to call on change. In turn, inside on change, I'm going to need validation. So I can show you the relationship between those methods before we go into the coding. So I attach for each entry field widget two event handlers. They going to rely on onChange method. OnChange going to call validate color. Let's take a look one more time how it's working. So if I type garbage, nothing happens. I see error message. If I type valid number, I press enter, it's accepted and the focus is moved. Also, I can move without enter. I can just type a new number, click outside, and you see it's changed. So two events, I react, focus out and enter. Okay, now let's get a more technical view. So you see the actual color mixer label. You see positions, row number, column number. You see column span. Very popular parameters, of course, padding. You need some space around to make it look nice. And finally, I create the first row of the widgets, the label, the position. I position the label, or I place the label in a row 1, column 0. And of course, I have to initialize associated variable. We used to work with integer associated variables, so the function was int var, but now associated variable is a string, so that's how you can get it. And of course, you have to provide a reference to your associated variable inside entry field constructor line 15. I attach two event handlers to my entry field on return. on FocusOut, I set the content of my field. By changing associated variable, you automatically change the widget content. And I do the same for the green row, for the blue row, and when I start my app, I manually set up the focus, the input focus, into the red entry field. Focus set, quite useful method if you want to make sure at the beginning of your app the keyboard focus is properly set up. What happens if my user press return? I move the focus. So first of all, I have to understand where is my next widget. So this method, focus next, going to give me the next widget on the form, and then I position my focus to that next widget. So that's how I programmatically move focus from one field to another field. And then I call reevaluation method. It's going to recalculate the color and update the color. If my user, after he typed the color, he moved to another field without enter key, that's possible, then I have to just call on change function. So that's two events I process. They quite similar. The difference is on return you have to move the focus. What happens here in on change, I'm checking all three fields. If the color is not good, I print in the field error message using again associated variable and method set. And I do not update, of course, the result, the mixer. Only if all three fields are good, I can create color string and I can update the color line 64. How do I validate? So validate color method checking the string and returns me good number from 0 to 255 or -1. -1 means validation didn't go through. So let's take a look at lines from 66 to 74 validation. So I validate using int converter. So int is a library function. It converts string to integer, but if there is a mistake, the exception happens. I'm going to, by the way, cover exceptions. I'm going to publish just a separate lesson on exceptions. But right now, to make a long story short, if my conversion not going through, if the exception happens, if the character is not valid, I move to accept branch. If everything is good, if all the characters are digits, they converted, then I go to else branch. So my statement try accept else, it's just one statement, has two different branches, two different scenarios. If this is not good, I go here. If this is good, if the conversion is good, I go here. I check again the actual number. it should be in the range. If it's not, result is -1. If it is, I return that valid number from 0 to 255. So again, I don't want to right now talk about exceptions in details, but I'm going to publish a video on them. Exceptions are serious errors, serious or abnormal situations that may happen to your program, and you have to deal with them. You have to catch. And the statement to catch exceptions is called try except or try except else. And if you don't catch, if you don't care, the program going to crash. And probably if you ever tried this, you've seen sometimes those crashes because not any string can be converted to an integer. Any exception in Python has standard names. We have maybe around 20 different standard exceptions that may happen in your program, and you may react on all exceptions. So here I don't provide the exception name. I react on all exceptions, but technically speaking, I could type here the name of the exception I want to react. Anyway, I'm going to record a video on exceptions. And right now, just try to understand the logic. Try to type what you see. Try to run it and make sure everything is working. If the input is wrong, you see error messages. If the input is good, you see good colors mixed at the top. Okay, let's talk about our next lesson. So because we covered all the basic widgets, however, we haven't covered a lot of other stuff. So I plan more advanced course on GUI apps where we can cover menus, dialog boxes, drawing, files, input, output. So probably we are going to create more advanced course for GUI apps. This course is just introduction, and we did today our last widget, entry field, and thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned, please, and keep coding. Bye bye.